Hi everybody, and welcome to our week number 11 Twitch live stream for my research methods class. I hope everybody is doing well. I see a bunch of you getting logged in and joining me here in the chat. We are so close to spring break. It is definitely coming. I hope everyone is hanging in there, as this is always kind of a rough time of the semester as everyone's really ready for a break. But it's coming, I promise. So hang in there. We are just like a week and a half away from that. So what I want to do today, I want to talk a little bit about last week and some of the materials that were due, and then we will talk about what we have going on this week, and of course end with the extra credit question. And if you have any questions for me, can you all hear and see me okay? Just to make sure everything is coming through all right on your end. If someone could let me know in the chat, that would be amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. It's like you were ready. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for that. So let's go ahead and go over to Canvas together. And if we scroll down, look at how far we have come. It is wild. So we are right here in week number 11. And so we have this week. And then after this week, we do have spring break coming up very soon, right? It's right here. We're almost there. So we have spring break coming, a couple of things before then. But I want to talk a little bit about last week really quickly. We did have a couple of things due, and there were a few like little points that people struggled with. So last week we were covering chapter 11. We had the homework assignment, we had the discussion. So let's take a look at the discussion really quickly. You had this little scenario with Professor Beach wanting to demonstrate his cognitive psychology class how using retrieval cues can improve memory. If you stop just right there, right, looking at that first sentence, what is the effect of retrieval cues on memory, right? That's kind of our independent and dependent variables. So he's reading a list of words in random order to his class, having them write down as many as they could remember, right? So there's a couple of different pieces going on here, and I think a few people struggled with identifying the independent and dependent variable. So the dependent variable is, how many of those 16 words that you can remember, which is being measured by what the people write down. And then the independent variable is the retrieval cues, right? So we're looking at, how the retrieval cues can affect that. So there were a couple of people who didn't quite separate that out or didn't kind of go into that in more detail. I wrote this here just so I remember for myself. It was a within subjects design, right? So each person is presented with every level of the independent variable. So that would be a within subjects design. Sorry, scroll down here. It was also a repeated measures design, right? Participants are measured on a dependent variable more than once after being exposed to each level of that independent variable. There were a lot of possible threats to internal validity that could have happened. A really good one was the order effect. That would be a really good one, or the testing threat, or even the practice effect. All of those would have been really good ones for you to talk about. And then I was really happy to see that a lot of you concluded that it wasn't overly generalizable. It was a super small sample. It was a sample of convenience. It wasn't random at all. All of those things kind of impacting the external validity of that experiment. So overall, really nicely done. I mean, a lot of you did a beautiful job of identifying all those components, which I thought was great. Most of you got the independent and dependent variable. It's just going that little bit of an extra step and identifying the different elements of the independent variable, and then how are we measuring and operationalizing that dependent variable. So overall, nicely done. Most of you got perfect scores. A lot of the people that missed it was just kind of this first question of not really breaking that down. So just make sure that you are very comfortable with that, because we are going to add some elements this week. And if you're feeling confused, that's only going to make it a little harder. We also had the homework assignment number 3, where you were reading the article about the 2 little experiments and kind of answering all of these different questions. Again, a lot of you, just beautiful job. I'm really impressed with how well so many of you have done on the homework assignments. And it seems like most of you are getting it, which is fantastic. Oh, look. Noodle! Got a noodle sighting, right? Have to grab the cat when he's anywhere near. He is super sassy, so he's definitely not going to stay, but I'll take him. He's getting big on me. He was so little, and now he's getting a little bit bigger. Very, very playful and never sits still. He used to be cuddly, but not anymore. So again, overall, really nicely done on the homework assignment. It seemed like all of you were really understanding it. I saw a great job identifying those independent variables and the levels and the dependent variables and so on. Great job being critical about construct internal and external validity. Again, I continue to be very impressed, and a lot of you got full points on the homework. If you didn't, it was typically a couple of you didn't answer any questions for experiment 2. And some people, again, just not breaking down the independent variable and the levels. So for the most part, pats on the back, feel good about how you're doing. I feel really good about what I'm seeing on my end. And we move into week 11 this week. In week 11, we're looking at chapter 12, discussion 11, and then of course there's the extra credit for this week, which I'll give you before we're done. I want to remind you, and I'll remind you of this again in a moment, I won't be here. I'm leaving Saturday morning on a cruise. I know you're really upset with me for that. I'm very excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. So I won't be here next week, but I will probably make a little video that I will post. So I will remind you of that in a little bit when we get to the announcements. But for now, let's look at chapter 12. Chapter 12 is adding an extra piece. Okay, so we've been looking at experiments with one independent variable. Now we're going to look at experiments with more than one independent variable. So we're going to look at kind of factorial designs, interaction versus main effects. It's getting a little bit more complicated here. So there's some graphs and charts of how we can look at what those results mean and how they can be interpreted. So definitely, you know, if you are feeling at all confused about independent and dependent variables, this is a really good time to make sure that you back up and kind of review that. Hopefully, going over this will be helpful. The Beyond the Book page, a little bit more factorial designs, some advantages and disadvantages, some examples, an introduction. Found a little video that I thought might be helpful for you. And then, of course, on the last page are the key terms that you'll need to know for the exam, which we will take next week. So we're almost to the 3/4 mark of the class, which is hard to believe. It seems like it's going so quickly. And after spring break, it'll just absolutely fly by. So make sure that you read through the textbook for chapter 12. Make sure you read through my lecture, watch any little videos like that factorial design one I included. And then don't forget to watch the chapter lecture video with the PowerPoint slides that I always give you. For discussion number 11 this week, since we're in week 11, as always, you have my instructions, you have my little introduction video. As always, be sure to think about these as like little mini papers and elaborate. A lot of you are doing a beautiful job in the discussions, but if you're losing points consistently, not a bad idea to just give me a little bit more. Someone asked, is there a program we can use to graph? So a lot of people will just do it by hand and take a picture. Do any of you use a program? If any of you have a suggestion for what program you might use to do that, please, by all means, put it in the chat. What I often see are just people doing it by hand and taking a picture. But if any of you have a suggestion, by all means, that would be super, super helpful. Yeah, no, I think that's a great question to ask. I don't tend to do a lot of like online graphing or like, you know, graphing. So if any of you have an idea, hopefully someone will put it in the chat for us. So with this one, again, video. So what you have here is a little study where people are being tested at whether they're getting better at driving while talking on a cell phone if they practice doing so. So there's extra elements here, right? So notice that we have one here, and then another element. So that we're adding that extra independent variable here. It's gonna get a little bit harder this week. So you're gonna read through this little study. And then what kind of design is this? Is it a what by what design? What are the independent variables and their levels? There's more than one, so make sure you identify both or however many there are. What is the dependent variable and how is it being measured? You're going to create either by computer or hand a line graph depicting the results shown above. And again, if anyone has a suggestion on programs you might use to do that, please put it in the chat. You'll upload that picture into your post. And then I want you to estimate and describe any main effects and interaction effects in this study. You would need to use math and statistics to calculate specifics. So I just want you to kind of estimate and describe based on what you see in this little chart here and what you see in your line graph. And then what might you conclude from the results of this study? Does experience affect cell phone use while driving? Don't forget to respond to my questions and then also reply to a classmate. Don't forget to show off that knowledge and comprehension by, really elaborating in your responses. So that is like the big task that you have for this week is to work on that. There's obviously some extra credit, which I will give you in a moment. But I do have a couple of quick reminders for you, as I mentioned earlier. The first is the same as always. If you could take a moment to just double check your subscription status. As I remind you every week, a lot of you have fallen off. So if you could double check that, or if you're watching this later and would still like to get the extra credit for answering the questions, make sure you are subscribed on Twitch. The other reminder, let me record this and I'll put it in the chat. Please remember that there will be no live stream next week, as I will be on a cruise! Exclamation mark. Cool. So I put that in the chat. I just wanted to remind you of that. I will likely post a little video with some reminders, especially since we have an exam next week and I want you all to be successful with that. So I'll make a video before I go and I will post it. Just remember, we won't have a live stream. I've already deleted it from the calendar and I will remind you in the announcement next week as well. So 1 week off, and then we have spring break when we come back from next week, and we'll resume after that. But I will be gone next week. And I'm not going to bring my computer with me on the cruise. The reception and internet is so poor, even if you pay for it. So if you do have any questions, you are welcome to email me, but just please be patient. It might be a couple of days before you hear back. I try to be really quick normally, but without internet, it will make it difficult to reply to you. So let me give you the Twitch extra credit question for this week. And I think this is something that's going to be a good little point of review just to help you out with the topic. Oh, and someone say they used Excel, which is great, or StatCrunch. Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you putting that in there. That's fantastic. And again, if anyone else has suggestions, that'd be great. Typically, I just see them by hand. So this is the week number 11 Twitch extra credit question. So what is the difference between a main effect and an interaction effect? Describe, define, explain, whatever makes sense to you to do. What is the difference between a main effect and an interaction effect? And when you're ready to answer that, you'll head over to Canvas. You'll click on optional Twitch extra credit number 11, since we're in week number 11. Up at the top, click Start Assignment, and then in the box, you can type your response and hit submit, and then you'll get your confetti burst, so rewarding, and rocket ships naturally, right? So make sure that you do that before the end of the week if you'd like to get those 2 points. A lot of you keep doing this. I think it's fantastic. It's going to take some pressure off of like a discussion or an exam score. So make sure you get going on the stuff for this week. And remember that we do have an exam next week. So not an awful idea to start kind of preparing a little bit and studying. You could start working on that study guide and start working on the key terms for each chapter. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. I will think of all of you on my cruise, and I'll try my best to eat something for each of you. There's like 40 of you in this class. I could probably eat a croissant for each of you and get away with it. I told my abnormal psych class today the same thing, but I will eat something for each of you. So just next week at some point, if you like feel a little extra food, like somehow, I was thinking of you and did that, because I'm kind like that, right? Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for telling me to have fun. I will. Hopefully I don't get too sunburned or anything like that. I'm very pale. We haven't had a lot of sun. So, oh, thank you so much. That's very kind of you to say. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. And since I won't see you this next week, have a wonderful spring break. I hope that you all have a chance to relax and do something fun, or at least just have a little extra time for yourself. Thank you all. Thank you all for the well wishes. I appreciate it. Again, I will eat something for each of you. Maybe a dinner roll for each of you. I love the rolls. Every night at dinner, they bring you like fresh like bread. That's probably my favorite. The food, shocker. I'm sure that's completely surprising. Have a drink for you. Oh, if I had a drink for all 40 of you, then I might be in trouble. Then I might get myself into some serious issues, right? Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'm going to hang out for a little while, but I am going to minimize my video so I'm not staring at myself. A single blueberry. That's so healthy. I love that, right? I was thinking bread or dessert. Like a slice of cake for each of you, right? That feels reasonable to me as well. All right, well, thank you all. I'm going to minimize this, but I will hang out for a little while if you do have any questions. Otherwise, have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful spring break when it comes, And I will see you all when we get back from spring break in like a week or two. Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, thank you all for the well wishes. You turned in one of the late assignments, one of the assignments last week. I believe I've gone through all of my emails, so if I didn't respond to you, maybe something happened. So, Patricia, maybe double check that, and you could always email it in to me again. I did go through all of them. I believe it was like yesterday, so I'm pretty positive I'm caught up. So, just maybe double check on your end if your grade has been updated, and if not, send me another quick email, and we'll go from there. Sure, of course. Thanks for being on top of your grade. I appreciate that. And I am still here. If any of you have any other questions at all, I am definitely still here. Nice. Glad you got to be here. And I know it's challenging. Like we all have busy schedules. I just try to pick a time and stick to it. But that's why I always post the recording so that you can watch it later. Worst case, if you don't get to make it live. No worries. You know what? Schedules are tricky. My schedule's so set in stone that if I had to make some big changes to it, it would be tough. So I feel for you. Don't worry. You're okay. I'm glad you made it. Even if it was just once, I'm glad you made it. All right, so it looks like almost all of you have logged off. If you're still here, I'll wrap this up right now and I'll start the download so that I can post the recording. But if you think of any other questions or anything, please feel free to email me. Otherwise, again, have a wonderful week, wonderful spring break, and I'll see you soon. Oh, yep, question. Yep, you got in time, right? Yeah, what's up, Monica? Sure. So, I mean, you can always, if you want to email me, and I think it's fantastic that you're reading everybody else's posts. I think that's a really great habit to have. You could always email me if you want to kind of check in since it's early in the week. You could always email me what you have, and I'd be happy to give you a little bit of feedback. Or, consider what everyone has versus what you have and just kind of make up your mind. I haven't looked at the discussions yet. I don't tend to look at them until the deadline. But you're welcome to email me your thoughts if you would like to double check. Or, you can go with what you think and see what happens. It's totally fine either way. No, I understand for sure. I don't blame you for being worried. But if you would like to email what you have to me, I'd be happy to give it a quick look over and write you back. Of course. All right, so I'm going to log off now. But again, if you think of anything else, please feel free to reach out by email and have a wonderful week.